It's me for the third and final video country today, and today we're on Seychelles. So if it's in at least two parts, but yeah, here we go. As the ambience of the Seychelles strike many first visitors to as more Caribbean Sea than Indian Ocean. And because of when its colonials first began settling there, islands were unpopulated. The early French colonials were able to imprint their plantation culture without any opposition, as 150 years of British rule did little to dispel the French influence, as the Seychelles remains one of the empire's most remote backwaters. As with independence in the 1970s came interest in diversifying the island nation's plantation economy. As on completion of the Seychelles International Airport in 1971 opened the Seychelles to a new source of revenue, like tourism. As far as tourism, Seychelles today is one of the most prosperous African states, with the continent's highest human development index. As the Seychelles were inhabited through most of recorded history, yet long before the early 17th century, when sailors from the British East India Company ship lost its course first set foot on the island, one of the islands. Seychelles exerted a subtle influence to the mercantile world. As Arab traders did business with cocoa de mer nuts, and only grew on the Seychelles Islands of Brazilian and curious, and they were curiously entwined palm nuts and hollows and float long distances. They were highly valued by Arab and European traders alike, who would decorate their shells with precious jewels and display them in private galleries. As historians believe that the Seychelles remained unsettled and explored for so long was because of the trade winds didn't really blow in their directions. Although Malays from Borneo may have had settled the Seychelles for a brief period of time between 200 and 300 AD, there is also some evidence that the navigators of Arab trading ships in the medieval times knew the island's existence. American merchants writing in 851 AD made reference to the island beyond the Maldives, which he called atoll islands, and today historians believe they were most likely referring to the Seychelles. Oof. Oops. As the great Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama was first to make the definitive identification of the Seychelles. During his second voyage in 1502, crossing from India to Africa, the admiral sighted a group of coral islands he named Les Almirantes, known as Admiral Islands, after himself. In 1517, the Portuguese mapped the area, keeping the name Almirantes for the coral islands, and dubbed the nearby granite islands the Seven Sisters. As Englishmen were the first to alight on the shores of the Seychelles, earlier in the year of 1609, as the English East India Company trading vessel called Ascension was set upon by natives near the Portuguese island of Pimba. As the ship lost its course, and on January 19th, the Ascension's boatswain sighted North Island, and the ship made anchorage in its natural harbour. It is a very good, refreshing place for wood, water coconuts, fish, and fowl. The East India Company merchant John Jourdain wrote in his journal, "Without any fear of danger except for alligators, you cannot discern that he ever news journal with anyone that any people that had been here before us. British, however, made no attempt to settle the islands, and over the next century and a half, only visitors to Seychelles were only pirates who preyed upon the rich merchant vessels sailing to and from the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf. Meanwhile, various European powers were laying claim to nearby islands. The French East India Company came into control of the island now known as Mauritius. In 1724, the colonial administration of Mauritius dispatched French explorer named Lazare Picard to chart the islands north-east of Madagascar. Picard was first to Mahé, the largest of the Granite Islands, and today the Seychelles' main population centre. 12 years later, during the Seven Years' War, the French returned to claim their islands officially as Mahé. During the 12 years later, during the Seven Sisters' War, the French returned to claim their islands officially. Mahé was renamed Isles de Seychelles after King Louis XV, Minister of France, and the name was later anglicised as Seychelles, angelicized as Seychelles, and applied to the entire archipelago. And in 1770, the French settlement was established on the island of Mahé, and the party consisted of 15 white colonists, 7 slaves, and 5 Indians. As at the first, the colonists grew spices like nutmeg, cloves, cinnamon, and chili peppers. Later, they switched to more traditional plantation crops like cotton and sugarcane. And following the French Revolution in 1790, the colonials declared their independence from Mauritius and subsequently from France. For 20 years, an independent Seychelles provisioned French and British ships alike, as well as the Arab slave traders. In 1811, however, the British took control of the Seychelles. Although slavery remained legal in Britain until 1835, slave trading was illegal as the Seychelles colonials and the British clashed over former supporters of the slaving vessels that pulled into Mahé's port, and wealthy slave owners began emigrating from the island with their households and slaves. And between 1830 and 1840, the Seychelles lost nearly half its population, and the British had a policy of raiding Arab slave ships. And when these ships were apprehended south of the equator, the human cargo were brought back to the Seychelles, feeding apprentice to plantation owners who remained on the island. And between 1861 and 1874, close to 2,500 men, women and children were rescued and resettled in the Seychelles. And cotton and sugarcane cultivation were dependent upon access to cheap labour. While to survive after the demise of slavery, planters began to switch to the far less labour-intensive farming of coconuts. Although fish provided an abundant source of protein, many other foods had been imported. And in 1903, the Seychelles became an official British Crown colony. As Great Britain demonstrated little interest in the Seychelles, however, the language and culture of the island remained French. Until the beginning of the Second World War, the Seychelles' social structure was dominated by a small group of French-speaking plantation owners. The majority of the population were landless, Creole-speaking descendants of slaves. And towards the beginning of World War II, the Seychelles residents began lobbying for home rule, and the Seychelles' first political party was formed in 1939 as the Taxpayers Association, as it was called, represented the interests of the wealthy landowners who numbered about 2,000 out of a population of about 36,000 after the war ended. These landowners were granted the right to rule, and the Seychelles' first legislative councils were elected in 1948. Now the new notifications from YouTube. And the rise of political movements that benefited Seychelles residents who were not landowners did not take place until the 1960s, as the left-wing Seychelles People's United Party, SPUP, was formed in 1964 and is proposing a platform of socialism and independence from Britain, as the Seychelles Democratic Party (SDP) formed that same year, represented the people interests of landowners and lobbied for a stronger relationship with Britain. And a constitutional convention was held in London in March 1970, and in November that same year, James Mancham, leader of the SDP, the SDP became Island Nation's chief minister. And by 1976, both parties were strongly in favour of independence, and the Seychelles became an independent republic on the 29th of June 1976, with Mancham as the first president. And his first term in office was short-lived, as nearly a year to the day he assumed office, Mancham was opposed in a borderless coup d'etat, and Franz Albert Fournier, leader of the SPUP, became president. For 16 years. The Seychelles became one-party state, as the constitution was amended in 1991 to allow for the multi-party system of government. As President Rene was still the most popular candidate, however, and remained the president of the Seychelles until 2004. He turned the office over to his long-time associate James Michael, who is the current president of the Seychelles. And yeah, moving on to language, the most widely spoken language in the entire Indian Ocean island is Creole, and is considered by the Seychelles lingua franca as the first language by most Seychelles. The language is used extensively throughout schools, governments, and even the media, and it is also the official language in business and government. And in order to facilitate tourism effectively, most people involved in tourism are able to speak English, and more than a third of the population speaks English. As the Creole language is a combination of French language with the words of syntax of Africa and Asian languages, as well as that were spoken by the slaves. And although it is based from the French language spoken in the 1700s, it bears little resemblance to the French spoken nowadays, in like France and all. And as the third official language of the country is France, it's French and all, and since the first immigrants to the island were French, after the French colonists left the territory, the language has not retained its original form. It was the language used by the Roman Catholic Church, and now the older people utilise French in correspondence and some formal occasions. And a small percentage of the population use French language as means to communicate to fellow countrymen. Some of the televised programmes are in French, and the term Seychelles is often commonly referred to and speak the three official languages, as the people of the Seychelles are very serious in their language. The Creole Institute in the Castle of Victoria to promote Creole literature, language and culture, and the government increased emphasis on Creole, and they are hoping to establish a distinct culture and heritage, as the government also sponsored course materials to teach foreigners the Creole language. And yeah, that is a language. And moving on to legends, so we're talking a little bit about most some legends, like old sayings and all that, as proverbs, old sayings, riddles, spells and incantations, traditions and superstitions. And since the settlers lay tracks in Seychelles, the Creole society has developed its own folklore, myths and legends before television and radios. Children would sit around and listen to tales told by the elders, and has often had a moral behind them to teach the children the correct way to live, but many other tales also of treasures protected by ghosts, ghouls roaming around the cemeteries waiting for the innocent passerby. While they are true, there are some stories to instill fear into disobedient children, and they have been grown into Seychelles culture, and are still told to this day. And it's because there are superstitions like a rooster sings during the day announces that there's a visitor, and dropping a fork at dinner announces a male visitor, while dropping spoon announces a female visitor. And if you eat from the pot, it will rain on your wedding day, something that you don't really wish for on your wedding day. And do not start a project on a Friday, as it will likely fail. And do not play with fire, or you'll wet the bed. And do not give someone money through the window, or you'll be ruined. And do not allow a baby to stare in the mirror, as he or she will not grow teeth. Do not lend your broom to anyone, as it will rob you of your luck. And do not count stars, as you'll get warts and all. And in folklore, it is believed that in the Seychelles, spirits communicate through dreams, and often it is a dead relative that comes to deliver a message of where treasures can be found. And when it happens, a dream or good fortune must not be shared by anyone, or all good luck will be lost and all. And yeah, that is the Seychelles for you and all. And yeah, I'll see you all later for the news and all that. Yeah, bye for now.